When billionaire CEO Grace Whitmore walked into her company kitchen one late night, she froze. Her twin daughters, 8-year-old Ella and Mia, both deaf since birth, were laughing silently. But what froze Grace wasn't their laughter, it was who they were with. There, on the cold marble floor, was the janitor, a tired-looking man in his 40s, beating on plastic buckets with wooden spoons, turning cleaning tools into a drum concert. Her daughters' eyes sparkled. They could feel the rhythm through the vibrations. And as Grace stood in the doorway, something inside her cracked. Because for the first time in years, her girls were smiling. But what happened next in that kitchen stopped her cold. Before we get into it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Kindness Chronicles for more stories that prove kindness can change lives. The story begins. Grace Whitmore was the kind of woman people whispered about in elevators. At 38, she was the CEO of Whitmore Innovations, a $2 billion tech empire in downtown Chicago. Sharp suits. Sharper words. Her employees said she didn't blink when firing someone. But behind the iron perfection was heartbreak. Her husband had died in a car accident 3 years ago. Her twin daughters, Ella and Mia, had been in the back seat. They survived, but the crash took their hearing. Since then, Grace had buried herself in work. She bought them the best therapists, the best tutors, the most expensive gadgets money could buy. But nothing seemed to bring them joy. She told herself, love can wait. Healing can wait. The company can't. The janitor, Eli Turner, was invisible. Every night, after the office lights went out, he'd mop the same floors, wipe the same glass walls, clean the same boardrooms where million-dollar ideas were born. He was quiet, polite, and always humming under his breath, though few ever heard it. Eli didn't just clean for money. He cleaned because he had to. He was raising his own daughter, Lily, a 16-year-old in a wheelchair, after his wife passed away from cancer. Medical bills had eaten his savings alive. Now, he worked double shifts just to keep food on the table. The man who once dreamed of being a musician now played rhythm only through the squeak of a mop. The night that changed everything. It was a Friday night. Grace had stayed late, polishing her speech for an investor event. Her daughters were in her office corner, drawing quietly. At 9 p.m., Grace went to make coffee. The building was silent except for the hum of machines. Then, a faint thump-thump-thump echoed from the kitchen. Annoyed, she followed the sound, expecting to scold some in turn. But when she opened the door, she froze. Her daughters sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes wide and bright, their tiny hands pressed to the tiles to feel the rhythm. Eli was sitting in front of them, surrounded by upside-down buckets, metal pans, and broomsticks, his makeshift drum kit. He grinned shyly, tapping a beat that sent soft vibrations through the floor. The twins giggled, though no sound came out. They looked at each other, signing excitedly, "We can feel it." Grace's throat tightened. The misunderstanding. What is going on here? Grace's voice cut through the air like glass. Eli jumped to his feet, almost knocking over a bucket. Ma'am, they were bored. I was just. You were just what?" she snapped. "Entertaining my daughters with garbage?" Ella's smile vanished. Mia hid behind her sister. Eli's jaw clenched. He could have defended himself, but he just said softly, "They were smiling. I didn't mean any harm." Grace's words came out colder than she intended. "Pack up your things. I'll have HR handle your termination in the morning." The buckets stopped ringing. Only silence remained. The twist of fate. The next day, Grace went to the office early. Her daughters refused breakfast. When she asked why, they wrote on a napkin, "Where is Mr. Eli? We want to play the drum game again." Grace sighed. "He's not coming back." They both looked down, and for the first time since the accident, they wouldn't look at her. Something inside her twisted painfully. Later that afternoon, while walking to her car, she saw a commotion near the service exit. A janitor's cart had overturned, and someone was slumped beside it. It was Eli. He'd collapsed from exhaustion, overworked, dehydrated, and pale. Grace's heart pounded. She rushed forward, calling for help. Minutes later, paramedics arrived. When they lifted Eli onto the stretcher, a small object fell from his pocket, a photo of him and a girl in a wheelchair. On the back, scribbled in pen. "Keep smiling, Dad. The world still needs your music." Grace's breath caught. The realization. At the hospital, Grace sat beside Eli's bed as he woke. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. Eli blinked, confused. Ma'am, you didn't have to come. She hesitated. Those bucket drums, where did you learn that? He smiled faintly. My daughter. She can't walk, so I taught her to feel rhythm through touch. Music doesn't need ears, just a heart that listens. Grace's eyes filled with tears. Her daughters, her girls who could no longer hear, maybe they could feel again too. The kitchen, 1 week later. The next Friday, Grace invited Eli back to the building. The twins waited in the same kitchen, eyes wide with excitement. Eli set up his buckets again. Grace knelt beside her daughters and placed her palms on the floor. Then Eli began to play. The rhythm pulsed through the tiles, steady, strong, alive. The girls clapped in sync, laughing silently. And Grace. Grace smiled for the first time in years. The soundless concert filled the room with something louder than noise, love. When Eli stopped, tears rolled down Grace's face. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Eli, she said, her voice trembling, I want you to lead a new project at Whitmore Innovations, a music program for kids with hearing loss. Funded entirely by us. You'll direct it. Eli stared at her, speechless. Ma'am. I don't know what to say. She smiled through her tears. Just say you'll keep playing.